Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 15th February. Day is Saturday. We have 4 articles on our table today, and all 4 of them are very important. We are going to start with troubling data. This one is about economy. Then we are going to talk about choice and candidacy. This is about politics. Then we have a very interesting article on economy, on global economy, particularly Asia. And then we will talk about coronavirus. But before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses. They are designed by the best faculties of our country. With the help of our pen drive and tablet courses, there are thousands of students out there. They have cracked various different competitive exams. You can purchase them from StudyIQ.com. In case if you have any question, queries, doubts regarding it, you can give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. To download the PDF of today's lecture, check out my FB page. You can join my Telegram channel. Please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. If you have learned something from today's discussion, don't forget to hit the like button. And of course, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and press that bell icon as well to get notifications on your gadgets. So, the first one, troubling data. In recent past, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji, while addressing the Parliament, she said that green shoots are visible in our economy. Green shoots, basically what it means is that things are moving towards a positive direction. As far as growth is concerned, we can see a little bit of you can say a V shape taking place from bottom. Now it has started heading towards growth side or the positive side. That's what she said in the Parliament. And the reason why she said this thing is because of this November's industrial output data. It was in positive 1.8%. Growth is not that impressive, I would say, but it's not that bad either, judging by what was going on in the previous months. But in reality, if we go through the latest data of industrial output, the December's industrial output data, then we find that this green shoots are basically not green anymore. They are appearing more dry now because of this 0.3% contraction is found in this industrial output data. Now, I'm sure you might have heard about this core sector of industries. I'm going to throw some more light because this word was mentioned here, core sector. So, it contains index, production and growth of 8 core industries. The names are on your screen: electricity, steel, refinery products, crude oil, coal, cement, natural gas, fertilizers. These are the 8 items or industries that are part of this 8 core industries, and this one is a very important information. Of course, these things are additional, you don't find in today's editorial, but I have covered them so that you get a big picture as well as in-depth understanding of this particular topic. So remember these 8 names, and if you pay attention to these 8 items, you will realize that most of these items are used in various different combinations, of course, but they are important for industrial production like electricity, steel, refinery products, crude oil, coal, cement, natural gas, fertilizers. You use them for various different items or services production, isn't it? So core sector, it accounts for 40% of the index of industrial production, and it showed a 1.3% growth in December, which is not that bad. But the main villain is manufacturing, which contracted by 1.2%, with consumer durables and non-durables in sharp decline. And this is one of the main reasons why December's industrial output data is 0.3%. Now this Index of 8 core industries is a monthly production index, which is also considered as a lead indicator of the monthly industrial performance. And the index of 8 core industries is compiled based on the monthly production information received from various different sources. So these are a few points associated with 8 core industry. As far as a reason of this contraction, you know it very well. Core sector was doing good, but the main culprit is manufacturing. Now, there are other problems as well, like coronavirus, something that is totally out of our control. right? Coronavirus, as we are going to talk about coronavirus in detail, but I'm sure you know basic things about coronavirus because we have already talked about it. I think twice or thrice we have talked about this coronavirus. So how coronavirus or why coronavirus is creating problems with Indian economy? It is because we are part of this big global supply chain. There are so many items, like let's say components for your mobile phones, components for your cars like auto parts. There are so many things that we import from China. Now, because of this coronavirus, there are factories out there, they are not operational at present, right? Because obviously no one wants to die working in this factory, so they are shut. So supply is affected. Many of our production centers, they have a very slim inventories. Their stock is depleting. So whatever opportunity is available out there, they cannot exploit it because a lack of a supply of these products. So this is one problem here, right? Second one is inflation. January inflation data clearly indicates that consumer price inflation, retail inflation, has increased to 7.59. December it was already high, it was above 7, but now it is 7.59, nearly 7.6 you can say. So this is, a big matter of concern. Things are getting more and more expensive. In wholesale front as well, inflation has broke the 3% barrier in January. So retail inflation, wholesale inflation is quite high. Yesterday we were talking in this daily financial news analysis. I told you the things that are going on in rural area, and the thing that we need to focus on, basically demand. We talked about this thing, and we also talked about this fall in wages. Fall in wages is accompanied by high inflation. So things are getting more and more dearer or expensive. At the same time, the wages of people, agriculture workers and non-agricultural workers, basically blue collar workers, right? Their wages have dropped. So because of this thing, we find a drop in demand, and cooking gas prices rising by a huge 144 rupees per cylinder is again going to create more troubles in retail front. So demand is something that we have to work on, and demand depends on basically 5 things: price of the commodity, price of related goods, income of consumer expectations, and tastes and preferences. Again, this item is this infographic that you can see is an extra item that I have added, but again it's for your understanding. So a thing that government should focus on at present is how we can create demand. At present we are going through this lack of demand phase. We need to get rid of this lack of demand. We have to create something, we have to do something through which people are willing to spend more. If demand goes up, then the supply will go up as well, right? Simple as that. So I hope things are clear. Now let's move on to next item. It's easy to understand: choice and candidacy. There are so many topics out there, rather than reading this topics. Of course, I'm not saying that you should not read anything associated with this sort of topics. Of course, you should read, right? Don't take it lightly. You should read whatever you can find on this sort of items. But just reading is not going to be helpful, right? Observation is going to be very helpful. Means if you want to write a creative answer in your mains examination, then yes, observation will play a very important role. There are few topics, right? Technical topics like geographical topics, you have to go through reading. You have to rely on scientific data and scientific things. But when it comes to this sort of like this topic is about politics, crime and politics, your personal observation will play a very important role. It will give that, it will make your answer stand out from the crowd. So right, let's crack on. Let's talk about this thing. Now, removing the taint of criminality from electoral politics is a part of current affair. You know it very well that few days ago, Supreme Court has ordered all political parties that they have to explain like why they have chose a candidate with criminal record. Let's say you have one election, right? You have one person who is having a criminal record and the person who is, that means a normal person. a candidate who is clean, who is not having any sort of criminal cases pending against him or her. So if a political party is choosing this person with criminal record, then political party has to explain, right? It has to give a thorough explanation, like why this political party has gone ahead, or why it has issued a ticket to this person with criminal record compared to a person who was clean. So this is something that they have to do. Apart from that, they have to mention, and they have to clearly means they have to give one advertisement as well in newspapers, explaining and giving information about all pending criminal cases against that particular candidate. And the reason why Supreme Court is doing it is because the voters should have all the information, right? Informed voter, and informed voter is an aware voter. If you know your candidate, if if you have few options and you know everything in and out about all these candidates, then you'll be able to take an informed choice, informed decision. Now, we have to understand this thing as well, that progress made so far as this crime and politics is concerned, not all, but I would say most of the maximum steps that have been taken are taken by Supreme Court and Election Commission of India, and this itself indicates a very sad situation in Indian politics, that political parties and our representatives in parliament as well as in legislative assemblies of our states, they are not doing enough to clean the system, isn't it? We know it very well. Black money, when it comes to black money, when it comes to crime, we can trace the roots of so many issues going on in our society from this. They take us through this thing called criminality and politics. This nexus between crime and politics. And in last 4 general elections, those with criminal backgrounds and their numbers have gone up, and this is a very alarming situation too. Now, Supreme Court has, in the past came out with various different, or I would say series of judgments, like asset disclosure and criminal records of candidates, and none of the above option available in our EVM machine. Immediate disqualification after conviction. Earlier on, there was a sort of safety net, or there were some restrictions, but now this restrictions or this armor was destroyed by Supreme Court. And then Supreme Court has also ordered states to set up special courts in all states, specifically dealing with this sort of political class. But still, things are missing, and one of the most important thing, the root cause of this trend, is the demand, right? What people wants. If we want candidates who are strong men, if we want rich people to become our representatives, then that's what we will get. If we want clean, good people, good character, right, this sort of people representing us, then they will become our representative. It is in our hand. We have to understand this thing. And political parties, at the end of the day, right, they are also part of our society. The politicians, like criminals who are sitting there in our parliament or our state legislative, they are not from any other country. They are not alien, right? They are one of us. So it's our choice, and because of our choice, they are there. So the remote control is in our hand. We have to understand this thing. If we understand this thing, if we realize this thing, right, and if political parties will come to know that people will not accept tainted criminals, people will not accept candidates with not good characters, then they will have no choice, and in fact they will not allow this sort of people to be part of their group or parties. So it all depends, on our choice. So this is bottom line. This is, of course, my personal opinion, but if you ponder over it, if you think about it, then you will find that this is true as well. Now we are going to talk about a very interesting article, One Asia, Two Perspective. Very interesting article. On your screen you have Gunnar Myrdal, and he was a Swedish economist and Nobel laureate as well. In 1968, he wrote this Asian drama. It's not a drama, basically. He talked about, he's an economist, so he talked about basically a 2,000 plus page research, subtitle An Inquiry into the Poverty of Nations. So economies of Asian countries, perhaps mainland Asian countries excluding Japan, were in very poor, dire situation, dire poverty in early parts of 20th century, and this was widely accepted. And then later on, around 1950s, these countries became independent. They became part of this United Nations umbrella, and these countries were divided into underdeveloped and developed countries. Rich countries, developed countries, poor countries, underdeveloped countries. And so the whole central idea after this division was, everyone was basically this underdeveloped countries were focused on this tag that they want, this developed tag. They want to get rid of poverty, illness, hunger, lack of education or illiteracy, and so many other ills. The underdeveloped economies were caught in a low-level equilibrium trap, has been said by Gunnar Myrdal. He says that these countries were having low incomes, and because of low incomes, they were not having that much savings. So because of low incomes, low saving means low investment, and low investment will create this inbuilt. It will create this inbuilt inability to grow. You cannot grow when you don't have any income, you don't have any saving, you cannot invest money. If you don't invest, then you don't get that return. If you want to know more about it, there is a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Whenever you find time, make sure you go through this book. Very interesting book, right? It will teach you so many things about your personal finance. I have gone through it, and I can highly recommend you guys to go through it as well. You will learn so many things in a very simple way. The remedy, of course, was foreign aid accompanied by labor-intensive technologies. That's what Myrdal said. And Myrdal, at that point of time, there were various different viewpoints, but Myrdal said that Myrdal went ahead with the social system. He analyzed social system or attitude towards life and work and institutions of Asian countries. He compared Western values with Asian values, and he said that Asian values were about survival mindedness. Like if you can get 3 times meal, 3 square meal, then that's more than enough. Irresponsiveness to opportunities for betterment, then superstition and things were going on, irrational outlook towards life and world, low aptitude for cooperation, submission to authority and exploitation, scorn of manual labor, unwillingness to work for others. All these negative things were part of Asian values as per Myrdal. He also said that institutions were very weak, low standards of efficiency and integrity in public administration, underdeveloped institutions, politicians corrupt, and lack of experience, and so many other things. And he also talked about this caste system and big families. Big families means so many mouths to, hungry mouths. You have to feed so many of them. So all these things were responsible for this poverty trap in which this Asian continent was going through, or was suffering from this poverty trap. Then in 1989, a British economist, Angus Medicine, came out with this, The World Economy in the 20th Century. He said that in 1820, China and India put together accounted for half the world population, 50% world population. At the same time, 50%, roughly speaking, world income as well. So he rejected this Myrdal's theory or finding that Asia was always at the bottom, or the value of Asia was anti-rich, I would say, or it was like more, the whole value was designed, or the value was, I would say, what we say, I cannot find the right word. The right word would be like your whole attitude is, inclined towards poverty, because you have always paid attention to poverty. All the things that you are doing will not create wealth for you. So this thing was rejected by Angus Medicine. He said that these countries were not poor in the history. If you go through them, then you find that they used to cover 50% of world income. So these countries, China and India in particular, were not always at the bottom, or Asia was not always at the bottom of the pit and poverty. It was not one of its characteristics. Then came Deepak Nayar in 2019. He came out with this Resurgent Asia: Diversity in Development. And if you remember, he was Chief Economic Advisor as well as Vice Chancellor of Delhi University. So he said that these two Asian giants, India and China, contributed close to 60% of the global manufacturing production and an even larger proportion of manufactured exports until around 1750s. After 1750s, we saw this industrial revolution in Britain, and after that things started falling in these two countries. But earlier on, these two countries used to rule the world as far as economy was concerned. And then we know in second half of 20th century, things started again changing. Some Asian countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Singapore, they started performing well. Then it was followed by Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. And now, of course, we know China and India are doing very well. The economic profile of Asia has completely changed in today's world. And he also said, and Mr. Deepak Nayar said that this, value or this finding of Gunnar Myrdal, he basically, what he did, he said that this whole Asia, he put this whole Asia in one box. But Asia is a very diverse continent. It's not like Europe. Europe is, you can say, more standard, right? The things are, of course, they have different language and different food and other things. But overall, diversity is not that much when you compare it with Asia. If you see Asia, then you have altogether different way of life and way of living in this part of the world, that is West Asia. Then you have South Asia, again different. Southeast Asia is different. Central Asia is different. This country is, their way of living, work, and everything is different. So Asia is a very diverse continent. By 1962, Asia's share in world population diminished to 50%, while its share in global income fell sharply to 15%. In 65-70, Asia was the poorest continent on this planet, but then things started changing. China and India, as far as poverty is concerned, 35% population and 8% of global income, which is not that healthy. As you can see, population this much, income 8%, so not healthy at all. But then later on, things started changing, not just in China and India, but in different sub-regions and different countries. Today we see that in past 20-30 years, China has been a star performer. India is doing well from last 2 decades, and things are on positive side. Our investment has gone up, our saving has gone up, and all those people as well as countries who were saying that these values were poor and Asian poverty is because of its values, or that is wrong as well, because you see China's rapid investment growth coincided with increasing export. It was creating high income, investment, saving, and at the same time exports were also good of China. This was accompanied by education, and similar story we find with India as well. Other countries, this Western world countries, they used to be agricultural based economies, then they developed this manufacturing and industry, and then now they are focused, or they are more, their economy is dominated by service sector. In India and other countries, we used to be agricultural based economies, but then we jumped on directly to services, and now we are trying to expand, or we are trying to get a good grip on manufacturing. That's why we find this Make in India sort of programs, because we are doing, we were on, even today, right, 50% plus population of our country is engaged in agriculture, but the biggest contribution to our GDP is coming from services, and we want more people. We want to basically transfer people from agriculture to manufacturing. That's what we are trying to achieve at present. So things have changed. That's what Nayar has said. But then again, everything is not that rosy. We have inequality of income. Distribution of wealth is not that equal as well. So there are problems, and we are going to face challenges of technology and environmental consequences. So we have to prepare ourselves. But basically things have changed, and this idea, or this whole theory, or the value system that he focused on has been proved wrong if we go through the work of Angus Medicine and Deepak Nayar. So I hope things are clear to you. Now let's move on to the last item of the day. Easy to understand topic. It's about coronavirus. In this article, we see a comparison of way of work or of how things were handled back in 2002-2003 when this SARS, that is severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, emerged out in China in 2002, spread to 30 countries, 8,437 cases total, and 813 deaths. So roughly speaking, you can say mortality rate of SARS was 10%. And at that time as well, it started in winter time. Cover-ups, like government tried to control the news, and there were whistleblowers at that point of time. Origins of both were traced to China's unregulated wet markets and sale of wildlife. At that point of time as well, China built these hospitals, ad hoc hospitals, in 1 week or 10 days time. And there are a few differences, there are a few similarities. Differences are like this virus is a bit different. Mortality rate is not that high, around 2%, which is not that bad, but still we have to be very careful. Infection level is quite high. I think it's because of transportation. 20 years ago things were a bit different. Today is again very different. So this is one of the main reason. And back in 2002, this SARS virus first began appearing in November 2002, but health minister gave televised press conference 4-5 months after that, nearly 6 months after that, in 3rd April 2003. At present, things are a bit different. China has already shared information. First, it tried to hide this information, but now it has shared information with World Health Organization. It has sequenced this virus as well. We are living in a world of social media, so it becomes nearly impossible to hide this sort of information nowadays. So all these things are there. There are like travel restrictions. We have just talked about how it affects business as well and economies. And India, Malaysia, Russia, Vietnam, Italy, then you have Australia, US, they have placed bans. Though as far as reporting, taking actions, there are considerable differences, or you can say considerable changes, positive changes, the way things are handled. But still we find this attitude of secrecy is still there, that China is trying to hide figures and it's not sharing data that openly. That's what we find from various different reports. And that's basically everything in today's discussion, dear friends. These are the news items on your screen. Make sure you download the PDF of today's lecture and go through all these news items in detail in the newspaper. Don't forget to hit the like button. And dear friends, tomorrow is Sunday, so no lectures tomorrow. I will directly meet you on Monday as far as next Hindu analysis is concerned. Pending lectures will be delivered to you in short while. And I'll see you soon. God bless you all. Enjoy your weekend. Jai Hind.